What's going on, everybody? Most of you probably saw this coming. I'm reviewing yet another Total Gym, the brand new one. This is the one that's supposed to really bring the evolution of Total Gym to the next level, according to the company. I'm reviewing, pun intended, the Total Gym Evolve, which, like I said, given the title of this machine and what I gathered from the discussions from the company, is representing, according to them, a true evolution of the Total Gym, not just in the machine, but in the way they're gonna be doing things in the future, and some other kind of cool things they have in store for you guys, which I may or may not allude a little bit to this video. I'm not sure how much this I can divulge. But one of the things they did reveal to me, which I was actually kind of surprised about with this machine, aside from some changes to the website, they're gonna be eventually getting rid of some models, which I kind of called out. One of them being the XLS, that was kind of, should have been long gone in my opinion. But this one in particular, they're saying is not gonna be offered on QVC. So you're not gonna see those crazy discounts. This is gonna be something that is just gonna be available on TotalGymDirect.com. It's definitely a price tag that is up there. We're gonna see if it's worth the price. I think it goes for $25.99 currently. They did give me, yours truly, an exclusive discount code, which I am very grateful for, where I think it shaves it down to about $2249, something like that, when you click the link, and then when you go to checkout, you'll see this applied. But with all that being said, you definitely know I'm gonna be brutally honest with this thing, and I think I've earned it because I believe this is my 12th, and this is kind of a conservative number, it could be a little higher, but this is my 12th sliding bench trainer that I've reviewed and picked up, most of which I paid out of my own pocket, going back to the year 2011. So I do love these things. I am also critical of them. I say they're extremely versatile, they're efficient, they're great pieces in many people's gyms, considering your setup and what other things you want to add to it, but they definitely have their weak points. But we will see this new evolution of the Total Gym, if this is something that you guys should pick up, or maybe something you guys can take a slight pass in. All right, this came to me pretty quickly. This came within 2 days of when they said they were gonna ship it. Comes in one standard box. Everything's fully pre-assembled, ready to go. So that's obviously one of the great things about Total Gym. You're essentially locked and loaded and ready to go. No surprises in the unboxing, but one of the things I will say is this just seems a little bit too similar, and that's maybe a theme I'll get into later. I wouldn't say this is a complete evolution in the sense that we're getting brand new attachments, brand new packaging. You got the same kind of manuals that are very clear. There are some subtle things that are unique with this machine, which we'll get into, but standard fare as far as the attachments, there are some little differences with the pins being a little bigger, but they basically give you the wing dip attachments, they give you the ab crunch, they also give you the push-up bars, which are kind of similar to this. They're not as angled, and I've actually broken 2 of these. I've ended up kind of warping the metal, but not a fan of the push-up bars. I'll just say that could be me, but the wing dip attachments always hold up. And again, give you the standard ab crunch attachments. And then of course, they give you a large squat stand, which is a little bit different from the previous one. The previous one didn't have these little icon here. And I actually couldn't find a old squat stand for the sake of this video. I think I gave one away. I probably have someone in storage, believe it or not, I do not have one. So just wasn't using them that much. The logo wasn't on the old squat stand. That was something when I saw the images, I wasn't sure if that was just a photo thing or whatever. And they have the basic logo here. On the website, it says, I think it says new and improved or largest squat stand yet. This looks exactly the same. I don't see any difference whatsoever. If there is any difference in size or dimensions, it has to be extremely minimal. So I will just say that is something I kind of wish I saw a little bit of some sort of a difference there. There is also the leg pulley, which I pretty much said I never use. The difference, I would say it's a little better on this one, is you actually can attach the leg pulley directly on the new column, which we'll talk about. So that is something, but standard issue kind of cable for the leg pulley and also the leg pulley attachments. I never really use those, never personally a fan, but you guys might like those. They do give you their famous training deck, which I didn't open this yet. I've opened up many of these. Very cool, kind of has a sequence of workouts that you can follow. I think this would be kind of cumbersome to actually use realistically, but it's color coded for various exercises and workout templates. The workouts are actually pretty good as far as what they laid out. It's somewhere in here. But otherwise, they have tons of exercises that are then meant to be placed on this holder, which is their little holder right here. I believe this is new. I don't believe you've seen this, but this is kind of a hint what I think they have coming for you guys is I believe they're going to be more integration with like apps and other technology they got released for you guys. But this allows you to put some sort of device like an iPad or something on there on top of your Total Gym to do, say, follow-along workouts. I'm kind of looking forward to that because yours personally might be probably adding some more follow-along workouts with this, and this way you can kind of follow along with either me or, of course, they have Total Gym TV as well. Swivels, kind of like this. I would say it's not like the strongest plastic in the world. It seems a little kind of cheap, but I guess it's basic function, and maybe you don't need to invest that much in that. Now, first impressions, you can actually see that I pretty much tore this thing open and really wanted to jump on it when I first got this. You'll see some little footage of that. I was actually going out to dinner with my family right when I got this, but couldn't resist, just really quickly want to jump on it. Had a few workouts on this thing already, and I certainly will give you guys updates. You're going to see more of this machine going further. But first impressions are, before I get into the kind of overall stats here, is it really does feel kind of like a little bit of a slight upgrade to the FIT. Of course, this is the giant thing right here, is the little levels of the Glideboard. The Glideboard is slightly bigger. In a second here, I will rip out my GTS and the FIT, and I'll give you guys a comparison of all those things right here. A big question everyone's asking is, do the different Glideboards fit on each other? Because I think some people would say, and someone left a comment the other day about, it would be great if we could just, someone who has a FIT could just pay for the upgraded Glideboard. Because at the end of the day, while there are some other features we'll get into, the Glideboard is primarily that big uptick in price of what you're paying for. Even though the frames initially here look about the same, the weight limit is buffed up a bit to about 500 pounds, which is great because you'll see probably some footage here of me using this as a bench, and they said, according to them also, they kind of green lighted you to say, yeah, you could, that total 500-pound weight increment would include any kind of external weight. So that was something, according to them, that Total Gym considered that you could use this as a functional bench, say for adjustable dumbbells, or I should say just dumbbells. And I've said since the beginning, if you have this machine and you have a small footprint or you don't want a whole lot of stuff, adjustable dumbbells complement this great. So if you don't have a bench, you don't want to get a bench, this works out pretty good for the most part, working as a functional bench. I'll still just kind of go with other first impressions here. Speaking of the bench, the stitching is really good. I think all my Total Gyms, for the most part, other than things I definitely buffed up, scuffed up my Total Gym Fit for sure, but the stitching is always very good on their stuff. This is like a faux leather. It's like a vinyl or something. It's definitely not leather. It looks like it. Decent padding. That was the thing that popped out at me the most when I unboxed it, is that this Glideboard definitely felt bigger. It's beefier. When I got a couple reps on it, at least initially with the kind of going through some reps, standard stuff here, the Glide feels smooth. Rollers look about the same. I would say it's pretty much the same dimensions. If I had, I want to do this live with you guys. I'm going to see if the Total Gym Fit fits on this. I'm almost certain it's going to, because based on what I'm looking at here, these look like the exact same dimensions, but I could be wrong. We'll try it out here in a second, but pretty much the feel feels exactly the same. My initial thoughts, and also based on use so far. The Glideboard is, of course, the big sell for a lot of people, because prior to this, it was really those super expensive models, the GTS or the Evolve, that allowed you to kind of really change the Glideboard. You do have a weight bar attachment a little bit higher where it used to be lower, and the reason for that is because of the way the Glideboard mechanism works. That's why it's placed a little bit higher up. As far as levels, you'll see how many increments you have. 1, 2, about 3, 4 levels of incline. So when this thing is topped off here on the Glideboard, the higher you go up on the tower, the less horizontal you're going to be, just by nature of the design of the machine. So if you want to get really horizontal or straight, say 90 degrees with the ground to the tower, you got to kind of lower the incline setting. Other stuff here though, while I'm down here, this is, you know, nice and beefed up, a little more steel at the base, so that's good. Moving on up the machine, big difference here. Instead of the hook system, you have the kind of pulley with a carabiner. Now, I believe they told me they thought this was a little bit tight. It is not a big deal, but I think they may make a bigger carabiner, a bigger loop there, or maybe they did that already. Honestly, I think I heard them say that, but I think it works fine. Notice the pulleys are a little bit different. Now, they told me, and I didn't give them a chance to really give me a good answer on this, but initially I did ask them about, so the pulleys had a nice upgrade. They are a little different, but honestly, I asked them like what specifically is upgraded at the bottom, because they're still plastic pulleys, and they said to get back to me, they never did. So at the end of the day, this little casing is different. That is nice, but the other one actually had like a metal casing. This is still a plastic pulley. And if you know anything about pulleys, the metal ones give off a smoother feel. They last longer. I'm sure this is fine, but you know, it's still, you know, these are still plastic at the end of the day. Wish these things would have been some sort of metal or aluminum. Rails are nice and painted. There's no issues here, although I can show you my fit maybe later. You will take a beating on these things no matter what, so I think this will get scraped up somehow. But usually at little accidents, I get something kind of caught here, the Glideboard gets off the rails, and a couple scratches is enough to kind of ding it up. But this usually will wear. If you do get some little dirt on here, I always recommend people just kind of rub the dirt off, because that little minor dirt, which is kind of normal, even on like indoor rowers, can start kind of prematurely, maybe kind of give a little bit of a bumpiness to the rollers down here. Again, rollers pretty much seem like standard fare to what you're used to on the Total Gym Fit. One important but subtle thing that they did up here, which I really appreciate, I think I just got a comment about this the other day with another model in an old video, are these little bumps. So you could, I would say, like top out or bottom out, how you want to say that, but before they did not have these. The XLS, I believe, had them, but on the Fit, if you kind of went too far up, the Glideboard rollers or something down here will get stuck up here in the crease. So you got this little bump here. Now that's kind of a pro and con, because I'm just thinking of this right now, is that when you do have these, this limits this range a little bit. So I'll take it, but the thing you will notice, you'll see it in the video, I might get to it if I don't hear it, I'll say it right now, is that the cables can feel sometimes a little bit short and limiting. That's why I always use things like chains to extend the length. You're seeing me use just like the stock grip, which is their standard issue grip here, which is not bad. They use these kind of screw-on clips more for safety. But you guys know, you guys see here how this likes to kind of torque on the cables, prematurely wear that. I kind of thought, hopefully take a note out of my book, and many of you guys as well, is that I wish they did something like this. So this is a carabiner, 2 carabiners, and the famous swivel. I will link these down below. But this to me just really makes it a whole different experience. And I just love having this extra extension. So I'd say if you're serious about using this, me personally, do it at your own risk. As I always say with everything you're gonna see here, I think the swivels make a giant difference. And I would say they definitely preserve your cable from getting torqued over time. I did ask him once why they don't use carabiners. They said it's more safety with the these clothespins. I feel like I'd more likely forget to close these in, honestly, and that'd be more of a safety hazard, but that's beside the point. Regardless, I can't recommend these enough, and I love these types of handles. This is from Randy at Huck Products. You can find their chrome handles also work out really good from Total Gym. And then going down the base, a huge upgrade for most people that is very practical, although maybe I need to exaggerate my voice that much. We're just talking wheels here, but this is a big deal, you know, having wheels. Oftentimes I wheel my stuff around. You'll see my Fit here in a second does not even have my rollers on because they just kind of fall off, and I just get annoyed just gonna keep putting them back on. But having wheels here is a huge thing, so very happy they finally put wheels on the back of the Total Gym. Helps you kind of move it around a little bit. Going up here to the increments, they got 16 more or less functional levels on this unit. Other thing you'll notice that they say is more of an upgrade, it's kind of a play on with the old XLS, is they have this kind of a clip system. They still have their safety harness here, which I am notorious for always forgetting about, little safety hitch pin. But by pressing this, you now let the pin go off and you can kind of lock it into place. The next thing they added, which is new, which I personally do not like, but I'm sure there's a very good reason for that, or it's just added safety, which I know they're very, you know, pay a lot of close attention to, is this little secondary safety pin like this. You put it in here. That's just for just in case maybe you forgot to put this in, which I certainly would do, and this thing kind of slides down and just prevents you from, you know, going all the way down. So appreciate that, but again, it's kind of an extra step to kind of deal with that. And then other thing, like I alluded to earlier, is that now you can attach the leg accessory pulley directly on the unit. You don't need a secondary thing here, so that's good if you're really big into attaching that middle pulley, and maybe I might start using it. Although with that being said, I for sure will actually take use of this. So I can clip a carabiner to here. I've used like TRX straps or suspension trainers, so I'm talking out loud, but that actually would be a functional piece. Although on the old models, I would just wrap around the whole tower and use it that way. Right here, I personally don't like this because you guys know I like to kind of grab up here for pull-ups. If you watch my channel, I've kind of ditched the wing dip attachments for just, you know, just sake of going fast to the workouts, but it functionally works. You can do reverse kind of pull-ups here, but I wish these things were a little bit longer. Could do something up there that possibly is an option. On the back side, I'll show you guys some shots of this. This is a nice little kind of handy additional feature, but just to help you kind of set up the machine, just out of practice, bad habit, I just kept forgetting to actually use this, but I'll show you guys a shot of how you would actually set the machine up using this handle to kind of guide it down and guide it up. Now for how this thing really feels and functions, that's kind of the big question. I went through a few workouts on this. Wasn't too surprising with me because I had the luxury, of course, using a Total Gym Fit, which feels very similar to what this does, and overall kind of build quality. We will test the inclines here in a second, but based on what I know from Total Gym, I'm sure the incline heights are gonna be exactly the same. This just feels good, feels the same kind of smoothness you get from anything else. Glideboard just feels slightly bigger. This is the big feature everyone wants to know, is it worth it? And if you've heard me talk about my GTS, the commercial grade one that had this function before, I said there's kind of, you know, pros and cons to it. So of course, a good luxury to have, but there are definitely some exercises where the straight incline or the base model, the base kind of setting feels better. Sometimes you think that going full horizontal is easier to get on and off, and I think for some people that might be the case, and sometimes it's not. But I'll just say this, because I can't say specifically because my preferences might not be for yours. This is certainly a function that feels good when you want to use it and to mix things up. Even just kind of laying on your back and doing things like lateral raises, bicep curls. I used to love lying on my back going shoulder presses. Unfortunately, this cable is just too short for that. So I definitely would recommend getting some extension in here. That's what I'm personally gonna do. I just wanted to leave it kind of stock for the sake of this video. There are a lot of really cool exercises you can do laying horizontal, but I will just say not all of them feel awesome. The other downside to this too is of course that with the GTS, the luxury was while this thing went a little bit more horizontal, the more horizontal you go, let's say you're gonna do something like I like to do, which is going on my knees, and sometimes I even do some stuff kind of crazy, standing, whatever, is that these pulleys are always set at a low setting versus in the GTS, you could actually raise them up a little bit. Other stuff that's just minor is that you kind of really do feel like you're straddling this thing pretty wide. It's not a narrow glide board, and that is fine. But for things like chest presses, you'll notice here it kind of bottoms out. I really have to make sure I'm sitting nice and far back on the machine. But I'm just thinking about those people that I know who I've coached and worked with one-on-one, even in person, that getting on and off this thing, for some people, even though this feels better, maybe more horizontal, might be kind of a chore to kind of just do that. But that's kind of minor. Overall, I would just say feels great. This is definitely a cool function to have, but not all exercises are gonna feel great on here. It's just gonna be personal preference. And of course you are limited to what you can do and work out with the setting down there. But overall though, just summarizing the exercises and workouts, it feels just like every other Total Gym that I've tried so far, other than the sense that it feels like more like one of those, bigger, solid, more beefier ones. Definitely stable. Those less expensive ones don't have the same kind of build to them, but appreciate it, does what it does well, and this is kind of obviously the big selling point for most people. I'll break out the GTS here in a second, but I'll first break out the FIT, which I've always said is kind of my favorite Saudi men's trainer. This one has been through hell and back, let's just say this. Indoors, outdoors, it is all scuffed up. I'll give you guys a shot of this baby, which I still love. You do start to notice when these things are back to back, more of the upgrade qualities, and actually, I'll put the weight on there. This thing, you can definitely feel the weight difference for sure and how much heavier this is compared to this. Now, when you have them side to side, I believe I saw this online as well, but there's kind of a slight slant to this garage. The incline is slightly bigger on the Evolve. Of course, it also has way more increments from 16 compared to 12. Always better to have more increments, but sometimes you only really use a few of them, so it's not a gigantic deal. Let's do the ultimate test. I'm sure many people want to know is, do these glide boards fit, or does the Evolve fit on the FIT? All right, so we'll see if that's gonna happen, because I really don't know. We're gonna see right now. And no, it does not fit. So that was a surprise to me. If you would have had me bet money, I would have lost. So Evolve glide board does not fit on this thing. I think you guys can see this was kind of a surprise to me, but definitely how much, again, that GTS really does still dwarf the Evolve. The Evolve is slightly bigger than the FIT. You feel it in the weight, no question. Like I said, it was wider, but still definitely not comparable to the GTS. And if I had my XLS here, which that's actually at a family member's house, I would compare that. I would say the Glideboard in this is definitely bigger than the XLS, but still probably not a fair comparison. This thing is still looking at like $5 grand, I think, versus this, with my exclusive discount code, shameless plug, is about $2,200. So something to consider. This is definitely, this is still gonna be like the top of the line gold standard that is now only available at TotalGym.com, not Total Gym Direct. Something else I wanted to show you guys, these are not exact measurements, but something I just did here. I got this set around 17 inches, and I just wanna show you this comparing, this is gonna be based compared to the Evolve. So this is the GTS, and then we got the FIT. Definitely narrow. This is just, GTS is slightly narrower to the FIT. And then here is the Evolve, which was basically the approximate, more or less kind of benchmark to what I was looking at. So Evolve actually has a bigger glide board compared to the GTS. Before I get into my final thoughts, I just want to summarize some of the overall cons, some of which I've already alluded to. Biggest thing I think in general that I think is a con, but it still might not be the biggest deal breaker at the end of the day when you hear my final wrap up, is probably in the name Evolve. I think when you hear Evolve, you hear evolution, obviously, and you're thinking this is going to be a brand new iteration of a Total Gym. To me, I think a better name for this would have been Total Gym Legacy, because to me what they did was they take the best of all the worlds, from the commercial grade model to the residential model. This really is like a next step up, you know, fit definitely, and it's kind of almost what they've been doing all these years, just making little incremental changes, nothing drastic. So when I hear Evolve, I'm thinking new attachments, at the very least, or at least beefed up attachments. I understand you're not gonna reinvent the wheel and they gotta sell old ones and don't fix something that isn't broken. So up here, if you're brand new to the system, this is still all these attachments, the handles and squat stand work fine. But if you're like me and you've gone through a bunch of these, especially over the last 15, 20 years, this is all the same stuff. It's the same kind of unboxing, same packaging, same stuff that's going on before. And so I really wanted to see something kind of fresh, some new attachments or something different. So a lot of it just feels pretty much more of the same. Yes, there are some, you know, structural things and some things that worked on previous models they integrated here, like this change up there with the double reinforced column there. The wheels, of course, they use the GTS pulleys, which I think are better, other than just aesthetically looking like this, I'm not sure. Of course, the Glideboard is huge. More options are always better, so I think that's always a great thing. However, like I said, even with the GTS, I think if you're used to the straight incline, there are a lot of times where I just put it in the straight basic setting that going horizontal with it might not be the biggest deal, but you know, having those options, I keep saying, is always a good thing. This thing right here, I think really is where the Evolve is coming. I think with their app, I think with their talk on Evolve, there's gonna be a fresh rebranding of the website from what I heard. You're gonna see a lot more app features and stuff like that coming where this is gonna be kind of the focal point machine. I'm still surprised this is not gonna be on QVC because that's where they do a lot of business. And if they're pushing an app where this might be a focal point machine in there, I just find that's gonna be hard to really pull off because there's a lot of people out there that have the base models and maybe this might want them to upgrade. So in kind of wrapping up, getting into my final thoughts, I'll start with this, that if you already are in the Total Gym camp, you love these things, this is probably something you're not even considering. You're gonna pull the trigger within a matter of time because you already like these things and you want the latest, greatest thing. And many people were asking for the Glideboard and this, or the adjustable Glideboard. No question, this thing is great. And like I keep saying, it opens up a lot of doors. Is it something now where if you already have previous models, I feel like you're really, really missing out? I wouldn't say that. However, I think once you did get this and you're used to using this, if you went back to the old models, I think that would feel definitely like a downgrade. So I would recommend it to those people who are really passionate about the Total Gym. You obviously have more money to spend. That's something else I didn't really get into in the cons. We could argue the money or the amount of cost what you're getting might not be there for some people when you consider that. I talked to a bunch, big, broad demographic. When you talk $2,000+ you can get big solid steel stuff with squat racks, functional trainer, all-in-one, stuff like that for $2,000+. And this, for the price, I don't know if it's, you know, comparable to that as far as value is concerned. Now, I will say I have nothing against anyone charging a certain amount of money for a novel product you can't get anywhere, and yet certainly is true at the Total Gym. So there's nothing else like there in the market that can really do what this is doing, especially this particular one at that price tag. So beggars can't be choosers. That's just the market as it stands right now. Brand new to sliding bench trainers, you're considering picking one of these up. Again, I would say if you have the money, I think this kind of makes sense to do that. However, I think if you bought one of the lower tier ones that says all the time or you got to use one, like it's also said many times, I think you get 99% of the benefits out of these machines just on any of those base models. As for me personally, what am I going to do? Even just looking at my Total Gym Fit now, having it back to back, I'm probably going to get rid of that, at least the base model unit. I'll probably save the Glideboard for some nostalgia purposes and refurbish it or something. But I'll probably chuck that thing, and this is going to be my daily driver, sliding bench trainer. My GTS, believe it or not, like I said in a previous video, I might be selling that just because I'm not using it as much. And while you can fold it up, I just feel like this is just a little bit more compact. It has the wheels on it. It's not as heavy as the other one and isn't as huge. And with my gym getting more and more real estate getting taken over, I think this is gonna be one that makes sense. Of course, also because there's a lot more Total Gym stuff coming in the future. And I think this is gonna be really the core model they're gonna be using. That's it though, guys. I'm gonna have a lot more thoughts about this. Again, if you guys wanna save an exclusive discount code, this is a legit exclusive one this time, apparently them, where this is going down, I think $300-ish. I'll link it down below if you guys wanna check out and support the channel. Try to make this as unbiased as possible, not a sponsored review as always, but let me know your thoughts on what you thought about this machine. Are you thinking of picking one up? And if this is really kind of what you expected, and is this what you wanted? I'll see you guys on the next video.